Good. All right, everyone, welcome back. This is going to be we decided to put the mastering day and what now session on one day. And what I want to prevent doing is just doing a lot of talking. I know everybody has questions. So I'm going to do a quick overview of what's going on in the music industry. And we're going to talk about a number of things. And I want you to also, as I'm laying out things, think of what you want to, in your context. You're an artist, you're a producer. A lot of people are passionate about doing what they do. And the big question is, but what are my options? What can I do with my music? Okay? And so, in a sense, I represent a producer's role, but also I co-own a record company. So in that sense, I have at least some valuable experience in the music industry, but mine is limited mostly to my country's context. And what I want to say to that is, I don't think there's a big difference in any country. Maybe a little bit of politics and a little bit of subcurrents, but in general, to understand the music industry, you can be from anywhere in the world, and some things are true. Okay, and I wanted to touch on a number of things that hopefully will open up your perspective of what can happen with your music. Okay, and I'm going to share with you some things which is going to be uncomfortable to hear, but I hope in the same breath, it empowers you to have a different perspective on the music industry. There was a guy who wrote a book under the pseudonym of Moses Avalon a couple of years back. The book's name was Confessions of a Record Producer. Anybody of you heard the book? Get this at any cost. Confessions of a Record. Sorry, my writing is horrible. And the writer was Moses Avalon. Okay, this is one. I'm going to share a couple of things that I think is really valuable to read. So anyway, what this guy did is he kind of opened up the American perspective on the record industry and the darkness of it. He was a guy who was contracted by labels to produce music for famous artists, and then over the years, as he was talking to the artists and talking to label managers and this and that, he got a feeling of what was the actual figures going on, how little the producers were paid and how much money was spent on the artists, and but worse, at the end of the day, how the artists was held hostage by the labels. Let's start by talking about record companies. Record companies are banks. They lend money to artists. Okay, it never gets told that to be that. But I need you to understand that very often record companies has very few people even in the company that's musicians. There are people who are passionate about music, like you and I am, like you and I are, how do you say, like we are. And that's cool, but very often what you need to know about a record company, it's a structure that you write this down, Confessions of a Record Producer, Moses Avalon, and this is the first book we're going to talk about. Record companies sit here and they have the money, or they source the money, and then along comes the artist, and they sign the artist, and basically the artist is all bright-eyed, but the fact of the matter is the artist is indebted to the record company. Okay, so they sign the artist and they sign a deal with the artist. Usually if you're not a very famous artist, you'll get 10%, sometimes even 8 to 10%. If you're really, really good, the record company will pay you 12 to 15%, and if you're like a Coldplay, I think your share would be about 20%. Sounds very unfair, but to be frank, the record company pays for the production. And with that, I mean everything. Okay, they pay. Let's say they pay for the recording. And with that is everything. Okay, producers, the whole story. They pay for the mastering. They pay for the printing, the design, everything to make a record that can go on the shelf or get sold. They pay for that and they take all the risk. Or so the artist thinks. All right? And then they also pay for the marketing. And usually that is a figure that's 10 times the amount of the production. Billboards, ads, TV campaigns, whatever the case may be. And very often, and this is for, especially in the modern day, there's a whole bunch of other services that comes in on this. The management, the labels try to get this under their own roof so that they have more control over the artist. But the whole thing is of organizing the management. There's legs of live event, the concerts, the whole story. But basically, the record company takes the risk, offers the artist a small amount of 8 to 10%. It feels very unfair because now the CD gets printed, and let's say the CD cost whatever. In South Africa, we have a price of 50 rand that it costs to make an album, and that's called PPD, published price to dealer. And what is interesting, just to understand the figures. Let's say you print a CD. The CD costs PPD, published price to dealer, and in South Africa that's 50 rands. In your terms, if I just do a direct conversion, it would be 15 lei. Okay, what's the sign for lei? I don't even know, but I'm just going to write lei 50. Is that right? Perfect. What does a CD cost if you buy it on the shelf here? That's the easiest question. Hmm? 1 lei. 1 lei.
You mean a blank?
No. You buy a record, yeah.
It's
50
somewhere
legs,
from
right?
30. I bought with 50.
30.
Or 75 if it's a gold.
Not 15. 15 lei, perfect, because PPD is normally half of the price. Here's the thing: is the PPD is the cost to make a record, and that literally everybody that works on the album, including the songwriters, everybody has to be paid from PPD. The guy who shops the CD, who sells it, let's say the CD shop, they take the same amount. They also take 15, and the total of that is then obviously 30 lei. This guy makes 100% profit on a and they take no risk, although these days they take all the risk because nobody buys records. But just to understand, what record companies borrow the artist some form of money, but what also very often happens, they pay them in advance. I'm going to write that there, advance. And advance is, look, you're a good artist, we think we're going to sell 10,000 units or 20,000 or 50,000 of units for you, so we'll pay you an 18-month advance. But what you do, they don't tell you, the artists get all bright-eyed, ding, ding, but you're in debt with the record company. You have to pay that back. You have to work that back. Okay? And then it gets recouped from the 10% that they pay you, and then they pay you a smaller percent. You said, hey, wait, but we already paid you this and that. You can see what the problem is with this. This model is a cool model for record companies, and it's cool for the artist, or at least the artist thinks it's cool, and it's only cool because they get advances. It's not. This is not cool. Artists always feel, but why do I only get 10%? Just because the record company takes all the risk. They have to pay everybody to make this record, and in various instances, the record company actually pays up to $1 million to produce a record or more. I mean, I know some instances where famous artists, they pay songwriting like. What do they call these? Like writing retreats. And they pay a bunch of songwriters, they book them into hotels in LA. The various writers shift positions, they write with each other. Then they would write 30 songs for a famous artist, and they would select 10 for the record. But you get paid fully for the time that you do that. The record company, that's all part of production, is writing the right songs for this artist. So you can understand if the record company say, we'll pay you 10% of PPD, this bit. So you basically get 1 lei 50 as an artist per record that gets sold. If you're on a 10% deal, if you're a Coldplay, you get 3 leis, for example, per record that sells. So you can understand it's necessary to sell a couple of million if you want to be Chris Martin. This model is interesting. It's interesting to take note of. This model is obsolete. It's not working anymore. That's why you had 7 big labels 10, 12 years ago. Years later, one of the 7 was bought into another one. Then you had 6, then you had 5, then you had 4, then you had 3, and now we're left with Sony, BMG, and Universal. And what's going to happen next? It's going to become one company. and one voice that controls everything. Say again?
So someone that has the monopoly on.
Yeah, the one with the most money will buy the other one. All right? This is.
Antitrust law.
Hmm?
Antitrust law.
Yeah. And then obviously you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that the word that we use for that is control. You have to know one thing about the record company is it's in trouble, and the more something is in trouble, the more you need control. We need to try to find. So, what happened to the music industry? Because remember day one I told you, for those who were here, in the 80s, if you were a great artist, a record company, the bank, was willing to risk money on you, and part of the big risk that they take, they had to pay a very expensive production chain, best producers, best studios, best session musicians, sometimes best songwriters. But let's say you were an Aha or somebody like that, a Danish band, you were already a good songwriter, so the record company would say, we're willing to risk this amount of money, but because we know that you will sell. And this is very important for a bank to leverage their risk. Okay, so record companies were only throwing money at artists who were definitely going to sell. And part of that was a big amount of money went to the recording studios. And as time went on, one of the big questions that came in is, okay, but wait a minute. People can now buy a laptop and a controller and one mic, and if you know what you're doing, we now get to a sound that's better than the sound that's in the 80s. I mean, you could see these couple of days. Back 20, 30 years ago, it would be really difficult to get a sound like this because you didn't have all these wave plugins and all these technology and clean preamps and easy signals and recording software that really thinks on your behalf. That wasn't there. You had desks, you had tape machines. The demand was on brilliant musicianship, brilliant engineering, brilliant recording rooms, the most expensive equipment, etc., etc. That is gone. Now this is the new reality. So you can think the problem was, if somebody now is able to produce music. Okay, let's move back. Let's move to the producer. We think of the producer. Producers, and I'm one of them, we tended to ask big money, especially when we're becoming a little bit better, because very often the producers owned the studios, they had the experience, they had the big names on their books, whatever, so they could ask the big money, and this was all good. The record companies was willing to pay the producers. On top of that, the producers got royalties. They got their royalties. They got their shares on every record. This was a great life, okay? And all of this worked because artists, to sound good, needed all of this. But then came along and technology became cheaper. So artists didn't need to depend on a record company who would eventually make slaves of them. They could try their own things. And over time, that on the one end. And on the other end, that channels like YouTube, digital streaming sites, etc., or even digital platforms like iTunes and Google Store and everything, made it available for an artist to actually record something and send it out into the world without the help and without the control of a record company. This introduced a whole new dynamic, because now suddenly, why would I pay for somebody to produce my music if I'm unsure whether I'm going to make any money? Because remember, if I sell a track on iTunes, then I'm trying to think in your currency, which would make it easy. We earn about, iTunes sells a track for 8 Rand, and it's ours is three times. Yeah, but I still need to convert. I'm starting. It's about 2 lei 50. Is it on the iTunes store? 253? Does it? Let's say again. About 3 lei. Yeah, that's about it. How many songs do you need to sell on iTunes before you can pay yourself not only a salary, but a salary that goes on? You have to sell a lot of tracks. That doesn't happen. Do you know that on iTunes, the statistic is that 80% of all artists on iTunes sell no songs? 80%? Yeah.
So much.
Hmm?
Such a huge percentage.
Such a huge percentage. The iTunes store has announced a couple of weeks ago that they're closing down in 2 months. It's going to be, you know what the shift you're going to see now? Now we're moving into a whole new level. I want to come back to this whole point. You'll see. I've already talked about this on Wednesday, but everything has changed from a record company that owned the control over the master to a point where artists, producers, and everybody's now in an ocean of you can decide for yourself now. What happened to the record companies? They had to find a new way to exercise control. So because they were banks and because they were owned by much bigger organizations, they were owned by film production collaborates. Like the film industry and the music industry isn't that different. Everybody sleeps in the same bed. Eventually, they bought over the streaming sites. So Spotify, Apple Music, and all these are controlled by the major labels. Now let me explain to you how this works. If I'm on iTunes, okay, and let's say I get $1 for my track, okay? I'm just going to write iTunes. If nobody buys my music, I don't earn money, but nobody loses. I've already paid iTunes or the distribution company a couple of dollars to host my record for a year, but if none of my tracks sell, who cares? I write it off, I feel bad about myself for 2 days, and life is better. But this is a problem if you're into control. It's a problem if you're the bank. If you're the bank and you need to make money out of music being traded, this is a big problem. So what would they rather? They would rather have you pay a subscription fee. Okay? What's subscription fee? I don't know what it is in dollar, but in South Africa it's about 60 rands. Let's say that's about, what is about $7 a month for Apple Music? $5 a month. Ah, okay. I should really work in dollars. That would be better. Let's say $5 a month. Now, let's say I'm the subscriber. I'm very happy to pay $5 because now I can listen to anything for $5 a month. That's great. I have to buy nothing. And let's say I'm gonna listen to music the whole year. It's $60 a year. I'm gonna pay for music, and it'll be all access. But how does your $5 get spent? It gets spent in the following way. It's always a pyramid. Don't worry. Everything is pyramids. Those at the top of the pyramid, the few, sells the most records. There's only a couple of Coldplays in the world, and a couple of Adeles, and whoever is famous in the world. And at the bottom, there's a billion others, who's also available on Apple Music and on Spotify and whatever store. Your $5 gets spent so that those who sell the most albums, which is the small amount, gets the biggest portion of your $5. So even if no one listens to your music and somebody subscribes, can you see what happens? Those who are already rich still get more and more money.
Is it paid by access? Like if I listen to 300 Coldplay songs, won't they get that
No,
weighted?
no. It's not pro rata. You get those. Let's say over the world there's 1 billion Coldplay streams and there's one stream of you. Your $5 gets distributed like that. Those who get 1 billion streams gets the percentage of that. So the rich keeps on getting richer. And it's a self-perpetuating system. So now they make sure that, yes, your song is now, let's say in 2 months' time, somebody's not going to be able to buy your song for $1. So where you could have earned $1, now you just keep on earning less and less and less. So the whole thing is, and this model is owned by the labels. So this is how they buy up all the independent streaming sites. So it's a bit of a dark picture that I'm sketching to you, but I need you to know this. Up to a certain point, you can be very successful in your environment, and Gabby and I had a great talk last night about some things that can happen, and I mean, we can touch on those. But I need you to know one thing, that the record industry is super dark and it's super controlled. It's right now there's 2 big poles in the world that control the record, and they all smoke cigars together and drink wine together. And in no time there'll be one label, and whatever freedom there is, as you think in terms of, I want to climb the ladder and be famous, and I want to be this guy who sings my songs on stages. It is not impossible, but I tell you, the higher you climb that ladder, the more you walk into the control room. Excuse the pun. I have two friends, two of the most famous artists in South Africa, and they're really good. I've actually worked with both of them. They're really good. Both of them have been confronted in Los Angeles by what shall we call those guys? The people who own the music industry.
Men in suits.
Men in suits, who literally told both of them on different occasions, "You have come as far as you can. From here on, you will need us. Here is the paperwork. You can think about it. If you sign, you'll be world famous. If you don't sign, this is the end of your career. You will not go further." Literally that. And both of them, having been Christians, did not want to take the next step. And that was the end of their careers. They are still the most famous in the country, but they are nobody in the outside world. They are the most famous people in South Africa, but they have no impact on the world stage. If that gives you an idea, so it is controlled. This is not new. This had been true right from the beginning, and I don't know if everything that I'm saying should be made public. Just for courtesy's sake, let's be very. What I'm saying now could get me murdered when I walk out here. So I'm sharing information that they don't necessarily want the public to know. Okay, I just know this because I've been in the music industry for 21 years now. This whole truth of the major labels that has the money, that controls the world, gave birth to the indie record industry, where smaller players who were really not that high up financially said, but we also want good artists that's never going to make it without playing the game on that level. We also want them to be able. So the whole independent record industry started. And the indie industry had been with us for years now. And everybody knows, like, we even have a genre called indie. But it actually comes from people who revolted against the mainstream, revolted against the commercial sound that's so controlled and so money manipulated. And now you have a mainstream industry, you have an independent industry, and I think on a certain level there's also negotiations between the two. If you become a really famous indie artist, I think you also get traded into the big scene, and we never hear of that, but it is the truth. Where does this leave us? This leaves us with a very interesting question. If you're a producer, you're an artist, and you really want your music to be heard, what are your options? Now, first of all, and you can interrupt me anytime to ask questions or to add to what I'm not a fundi. I just know what's going on and what is our options to a certain degree. All of us want our music to be heard. And actually at the point where that is your desire, you are immediately at a point where you need to make a decision, left or right. Right would be to say, not right as in correct, right as in not left. Am I willing that my music stays art and is enjoyed by people that know me, and maybe a little bit bigger than that, and maybe I have in my country or in my subculture I have a bit of influence? That's right. Left is to say I'm driven by something else. I want to climb this ladder, and I am talented, and I want to get to the top. That will be a different course. And actually all I can tell you is think very clearly before you decide on that. I don't think a band like Coldplay, who's right at the top in the world with a number of other artists, I don't think life is as glamorous as it looks from afar and as it looks on the TV screen and even at the concert. I think it's a hard life, and I don't think they have a lot of freedom. I think a lot of what they do is controlled and is predicted, and because the guys who put the billions behind them still have the say. Now it gets easier for guys like Coldplay on a philosophical level because they can actually pay for themselves, and their fan base is big enough to probably keep on supporting them for a while. If they would climb out of the matrix now and say, no, we're just going to do our own thing, they would probably survive for a short while. But the interesting thing is right now they're owned, so 80% of what they earn is in any case going to their labels. So it takes a matter of time before their income dries up in any case. So I'm just saying you can go left, but know that left doesn't mean you're going to have this glamorous life. It's a life where somebody else will make decisions on your behalf for the rest of your career. Right is a better option. Do you get that? Anyway, right means you can, to a certain degree, decide how flexible do you stay with your music. I know this is a very dark introduction, and I just want us not to have fairy eyes when we talk about what happens to your music after you've produced it. Because unfortunately, we have to have this hard discussion. The music industry is not for softies. It's a hard reality where it's more about the money than about the art. And the more you play the rules according to those who control, the better is your chance of being anybody in the music industry. But think about that very clearly, because I don't think it's a very glamorous life. I think it's a super hard life. And those stories that make it to the top, very often you hear about people who die of depression in their hotel rooms, and because you're just not free. All right? But there's good news. Before you get to that point, there's a million things that can happen, which is beautiful. And one of the first things that I want to talk about is you want your music to be heard. Okay? And still, video did not kill the radio star, although there was a time that we thought that. But the radio still has all the authority, as tricky as that sounds. Why? Because radio, people thought radio was going to die out years and years ago. But the truth is radio never died out. And radio still is the main thing that people dial on when they're driving their cars. And when they're at a little office job and there's something playing in the back, radio is still the thing that people listen to. And radio exists why? Because people who pay for advertisements keep the radio stations alive. And they only put money to advertisements if they know certain people will listen to the radio. And those people that listen to the radio listen to popular music. So there's a very intricate dynamic between radio, popular music, and investors, the sponsors of advertisements, to actually keep the radio stations alive. There is no way, there's nothing in sight that gives us an indication that radio will die out. Internet radio did not make it because of advertisements. People don't put money to internet radio stations. It's not proven to work, and therefore it doesn't work. It doesn't survive. But radio everywhere, independent of the culture, independent of where you come from, is still the authoritative voice. So what we're asking you is, if you're really interested in making it in the music industry, and I'm not saying, remember, I'm talking about the left and the right. Let's talk about right. Like, make it to a degree where you have a satisfactory world, where you do what you love, what you're passionate about. You have to take into consideration radio. Okay? Now, this is a difficult conversation because your culture and my culture may be different, but I still think the basic operation is the same. Radio take on music from countless sources. All right? In South Africa, it works like this. Anybody, you can send music to the radio in South Africa, but you have no idea what happens to it. You submit either an MP3, and some radio stations gives you an automated reply. They say, can you please follow this link? And then they have a little page where you type in your name, one sentence about yourself, and you attach your MP3, and you never hear from the radio again. In South Africa, I think there's something like 100 new singles per day goes to radio. And it's all great.
Are you
Yes.
talking about national radio or local radio stations, or both categories?
The figures are different for community stations and for national radio. But in South Africa, there's not a vast difference between local and national.
Okay.
The consumption of airtime is the same in national. We have about 3, maybe 4 national radio stations, and they're not bigger than the community stations. Their reach is bigger, but they're actually not bigger in a listening base. So this is a good question. I don't know how it works here. Okay? But what I want to say is, like, some community stations, although they serve a smaller listening base than a national, are much bigger in perception because it's in the right area. It's in the right community. It's in the trend-setting area, for example. In Cape Town, for example, a community station is much bigger than a community station that may have a bigger footprint, but it's not in a very influential area, somewhere in the middle of the country. You see, but in a very trend-setting area, investors pay much more to put their ads on, so those radio stations are more powerful. They're more present at all sorts of events, etc., etc. So when they play a single, and the community station in the middle of the country that may have more listeners play the single, the one that sets the trends, have much more impact.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, it's not national community question. It's actually who sets the trend. Some of the national stations doesn't set the trend. And that I can't answer for Romania, that you need to find out. But now here's the point that I want to make. If I, as Helmut, sent I have made a little single and I send it to radio, but I send it as an artist, the guy who does the music supervision, he reads Helmut Meijer, no, never heard of this guy. And next income an email that says from this or other record company in Cape Town. Oh, what immediately happens is the fact that a record label is behind an artist says to the music supervisor, somebody has already done the screening. Somebody has already put money to this, and somebody has already put attention to this. Let's just move them up in the list to number one. So let's say in a single day there's 100 tracks submitted to radio, and 3 of them are from record companies. The 3 that will be listened to first is from the record companies. And I still think that is true everywhere. You know what the truth is? That's the perception in the world, and the radio stations are not updated. Not yet. I don't know what it's going to be next year or in 5 years' time. But right now, in South Africa, and I'm assuming it's the same, in America it's different, because in America, okay, wait, it's different in America. You remember the story from Avril Lavigne? It was a BMG affair. They needed to create an artist, a skater girl, counter stream, very funky, and she was going to inspire all the chicks, the teen chicks. They created Avril Lavigne, and that was one of the first stories ever that her single went to national radio, one of the biggest stations, with a $25,000 check with it. And she was placed on radio, and overnight, Avril Lavigne's Skater Chick was established through national radio. And $25,000 investment was great for national radio because they can pay their bills and the radio station can do their thing. But overnight, 1 million people heard Avril Lavigne, and she was made. Radio stations. So, are you following what I'm saying? I'm presupposing 2 things. As an artist, as a producer, you want either your clients or your own music to be heard. You still want to find airplay on radio. And if you're going to do it under the auspice of a label, and obviously you can't just go register yourself as a record label and has no authority and has no credibility. This is a longer conversation. But record companies have a bigger chance of getting you on radio. Sheer from the way that radio stations operate. They may have 1 or 2 people that bring in new music. They usually have a panel of 5 people who decide what's the new material on radio going to be. But that is very easily overridden by the fact that if you're a record company or if you join forces with a record company. All right, this is very important information. Next topic.
I have one observation.
Please.
For example, underground electronic music is very far from radio.
Yeah.
They make money from festivals or concerts or licensing if they're really good.
Yeah.
For example, you showed us yesterday that trio quartet, trio workshop.
Rosenthorn, yeah.
For example, they wouldn't be on the radio.
Well, in South Africa we have a radio station, a couple of classical music stations, like Fine Music Radio. It's owned by some of the big theatre houses. Radio station in the theatre house. That's an example where they would get playlists. But no, they would never play on commercial radio. Never played on any, because unless there is some or the slot that features local talent that nobody has ever heard of, but that will be a minority slot, and you may be playlisted once or twice. But if you want to get in on what they call on circuit, you have to play by the commercial rules, everything that we've talked about on Wednesday. Your music has got to tick all those boxes. It's got to sound like ... Electronic music, you're absolutely right, because I want to say some genres, we don't even need to mention the word radio. You might be played, again, like a classical piece on 1 or 2 stations. In South Africa, we have a radio station called 5FM. They have a right through the night electronic music playlist, and it's the night drive they call it, and it's just like 6 hours of non-stop electronic music, and it's not even people. It's all pre-programmed, and they have everything is computerized. It's great if you're into that, but that's where you would be heard, and it would be in the middle of the night, so you won't get famous from that. Most people won't hear you, but there's 1 or 2 weird people that sit and smoke a cigar in the middle of the night and that might hear you. But radio isn't the way to get famous with electronic music. Yes, you're right. You have to buy into that program. It's different and it's underground and it's very often subversive in the sense of nobody knows exactly how it works. But yeah, that is very difficult. You can, however, play the rules, and I'm going to get to some of the other rules now. So radio is the one. Let's put a 1 next to this. Obviously, the second one is important. Digital distribution. Okay. Now, in digital distribution, I'm meaning streaming as well as stores. The good news is you don't need anybody to help you to get onto that. It's accessible by anyone. You just have to pay you a couple of dollars to get hosted. Companies like CD Baby, TuneCore is a very famous. TuneCore. Check these out. These are the biggest in the world. They're like the middleman. They take your production to all the stores in the world. For that, they either take a cut of what you sell, or they take an upfront fee as their processing fee, and how they make their money to survive. Good, no problem. TuneCore is a little bit.
Some of them actually print on vinyl now.
Yeah, there's a whole resurgence of to vinyl. But you'll see that the vinyl industry, it's got a life of its own. It's not commercial. It's a niche thing. I mean, I asked.
Rising.
It's rising, but it's. I don't think it'll become mainstream again. It's too expensive. Vinyl is expensive, man.
And it's unpractical.
And it's unpractical. It's like you have to own a home and you have to have storage space for all your vinyls, or you have to have 5 vinyls, 10 vinyls, your favorite 10 vinyls. Yes.
And do you recommend this kind of agencies? Because personally, I've worked with digital music, this specific kind of agency, and without the right promotion, you can have all your digital distribution, but you won't.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. Absolutely.
Oh.
You're jumping the gun, but that's this is what I want to say. You can get on. There's now 39 big digital stores in the world. 2 agencies, 2 middlemen.
Yeah.
Okay, the distributor. These 2 are the best. There's many more. Okay, and there's new ones coming up, and everybody tried to get a piece of the pie. CD Baby, TuneCore. Which one is the best? It depends on how many songs you sell per year on them. If you're going to sell a lot of songs, TuneCore is better. If you're going to sell only a few songs, CD Baby is better. TuneCore takes an annual fee. CD Baby takes a once-off fee. But CD Baby then takes a percentage of your music, where TuneCore gives you everything.
Yes.
Right now, iTunes, okay, the store, not Apple Music, iTunes pay you out 60% of what you sell. They claim that the other 40% is used to cover the store costs and to pay out songwriters or publishers whose songs you use. That's what they claim. No one has ever seen any money. It's a little bit of a weird game. Everybody wonders where their money are. But iTunes claim that they pay them. I don't know. Because this gets recorded, right? I think they pay the people. All right? This is important, but here's the problem. Gladys pointed it out. You'll be one of millions of songs that never get heard or never get sold unless you promote it. And again, the big question is, how do I promote my music? So you're back at square one instantly. You know what most people do is they get on digital stores and they just sleep. They just sleep well because they're happy that they're available. But nothing happens. You just spend money, but you're no better off. And the even more funny thing is, in South Africa, and I'm sure it's the same everywhere, is people just feel good, and it's almost as if the idea of being on iTunes drives them. And then you put up your little share your little player from iTunes, and it lasts for 2 or 3 days, and your parents and your brother and the immediate family share it once. And you sell 5 units, and then your first paycheck comes and you realize you can't even buy a burger, and then you're just disillusioned and gone is all your steam, because this is just one big hoax. So the third one is, I'm going to make a thing about it, because this is now, unfortunately, where the world is. streaming is by far bigger than digital stores. I know it is part of that because you still need one of these channels to get there, but I'm putting it under a heading so that you just understand where the world is right now. I don't know where the world is going to be in 5 years. No one knows. All we know is that YouTube buggered up the world. Because you and I still, because we make music, we know it's worth something. We know it takes freaking many hours, not of making it, but of learning to make it. I mean, right now, I have put in tens, I want to say hundreds of thousands of hours to know what I know now and put it through so many ropes. If somebody buys me to produce a track from, they don't buy my time. I don't sell my time. They're buying 20 years of experience that cannot be bought. So I know what I do has value, even if it's only me that likes it. I know it has value. That's the point. And all of you know that. You know that when I produce music or when I record an artist or when I put out my own stuff, it has value. You know that. But you have that funny feeling is, but if no one is going to pay for that, you know, first of all, you're going to be discouraged to spend any money on equipment. You're going to be discouraged to try anything. You're basically going to get to the split in the road. Am I going to do this for the love of it? Or am I just going to leave it? This is where most people get to that point of disillusionment. You know, because what YouTube did is YouTube told the young kids, and I mean, in a sense, some of you are part of that generation, is that you can not only listen to the song for free, you can now also see a video for free. So this teaches people that a song plus its video only needs an internet connection. You don't need to spend money on it. Why would you want to go pay $1 to own the track? You can just log on to YouTube and boom, there's the song. And you can watch the song. Who's going to pay money if that's for free? You know, so in a sense, the idea of being available on YouTube killed the music industry. And the record companies seriously got nervous about that because they have no control over that. So what did they do? They got back and they bought up the streaming sites because streaming on some level, and in a sense they also own YouTube Music, which is a new thing because now YouTube has a whole branch which focuses on the actual intrinsic master quality of YouTube. And everybody now gets ads, so you can be part of YouTube or you can be part of YouTube Music. Right, okay, but it's been music all the while. yeah, but we're major labels. We have to own a piece of the pie.
Copyright legislation that just boomed up lately.
Absolutely. This is the reaction to this ridiculous. It's all communist in a sense. Again, you know, it gets controlled and owned. Anyway, so radio, digital stores, streaming. Most streaming sites is so much bigger than the digital stores. You will not believe the figures. It is. Just go Google it. Get the latest statistics on iTunes versus Apple Music. It is unbelievable. Like some of our artists sells 10 copies on iTunes, but they stream thousands of times. You know, it's hundreds of times more that the streaming. People don't want to pay for stuff. They're willing to pay a couple of rands, but then want to have access to everything, or they just don't want to pay anything and listen to it on YouTube. This is the problem. Now you ask, okay, well, you're not giving us good news here. The good news is coming. There are some organizations, I'm going to make 2 more points here, that falls outside of the conventional distribution model because these guys are actually your barrier to entrance. You can't actually put something on iTunes unless you use a distributor in the same way that you can't put a little homemade jam in the little store. Okay, you've got to have somebody that sell it to the store and convince them that they need your jar of homemade jam there. This is the same here. These guys are your barrier to entrance and obviously the whole list that goes with it. But there are some guys who stepped up and changed the game and their name is Bandcamp. They're not the only ones, but
Yeah, I was talking about them that they know are going to print vinyl.
yeah, they're going to print vinyl. You're right. These guys, at least for now, is giving me a lot of hope. Check it out, bandcamp.com. You can sell your music for free and it's self-curated. You log on, you open an artist account, you can upload your own artwork, your own lyrics, your own everything. You determine how much you sell the tracks for. You can sell as many songs and as many albums as you want. Every single song can have its own video. It's everything on Bandcamp. It's a complete revolt against steps 2 and 3. A complete revolt. I'll show you. I'm going to show Bandcamp to you now. And
there are also labels on Bandcamp.
say again.
There are also labels. On
Yeah,
Bandcamp.
yeah. So Bandcamp offers you the 3 types of accounts. You can be a fan, and it's for free. And then you can sign up as a fan, and you can listen to anything on Bandcamp and deliver comments and follow people. Really cool. Some people just want to listen to music. Good. We don't want to listen to music. We at least also want to sell our music or make it available. We don't necessarily want to sell it, but we also want to sell it. You can sign up as an artist, or you can sign up as a label. And label cost money. Okay, I think it costs $15 or $25 a month, but then you can have unlimited amount of artists, different artists. And Bandcamp then gives you the option of doing all the payments and all the splits and all the royalties in the background. So you run this label and Bandcamp does all the payments. Let's say you have 3 songs of that artist, 2 albums of that one, 9 singles of this, 1 video of that. Everything is centered, and Bandcamp pays everyone, and it's a transparent system. And you pay $25 a month for them to have this service. Great service. Or you could be an artist on Bandcamp and pay nothing and take all the money. I think they take 15%. Hey, that's fair. 15% is better than iTunes that take 40% of your money. And in order to get on iTunes, you need to pay one of these guys. So it's just one big money-making machine. But your option with Bandcamp at this stage, and listen, I'm putting them out as an example. I think there may be more than Bandcamp. Right now, they're the biggest. And I don't know, with the world that we live in, if they're going to stay free. Get on there while you can for free. While we had to have another workshop and find out what the next new...
The songs are short, they're not full songs.
On what?
On Bandcamp.
Oh, no, you can upload...
Yeah, but as a fan, you can listen to only 30 seconds, I think.
An excerpt. An excerpt.
Oh, is it?
The whole-
I'm not a fan on Bandcamp, so I don't know. Is
Yeah,
that true?
Like for 30 seconds of each track.
And you can buy it, yeah?
Yeah.
And if you buy it, you own it. Yeah. Yeah, but let me tell you, that you set. I can say how long people can listen to the songs as a guy who has an artist account. I also have a label account, but as an artist account, I can say listen to 30 seconds. So I think you're right and wrong. I can tell people they can listen to the whole song. And I can tell, this is the nice thing, is you can tell Bandcamp that somebody logging in from an IP address can listen to your song 3 times or 9 times or whatever. And after that, Bandcamp stops and say, hey boys, you gotta,
need to buy
you must put your hand in your pocket now. This is just fair. You've now enjoyed a free streaming site for a while. Let's be fair towards the artists. It costs them money to be here. It costs them money to make it. Yeah, great. We're all in support of that. I mean, but who's on Bandcamp around here? You're on Bandcamp. Oh, is your music on there? I'm gonna spam you. I'm going to spam you and deliver commentary on your master. And I'm going to say EQ question. Yeah, it's just because there's one thing that bothers me. It's a lot of EQing on this.
I can put the -9 dB.
Yeah, was it -9 or was it 3? I'm just checking.
Like 10 comments.
There you go, I'll comment on every track. Screenshot, put it on Facebook. Okay, so this is only up to 0.4. I know my maths is a little bit, I design the maths as I go along. Bandcamp is a very good solution at this stage of the game to self-curate your music, okay? How much guarantee do you have? Nothing. Nothing. This is unfortunately, unless you're going to pay, let's like, how much, let's say let's say you're not in the music industry and you have a product and you want it on radio. How much guarantee do you have that somebody's going to talk about that on radio? 0. You got to pay the radio to play that. Okay, so it's the same in the world everywhere. This music industry is not above any other industry. So to get this marketed is way beyond the scope of this masterclass, way beyond this. Okay, I want to show you what's going on in the world and what your possibilities are. But in order to be known on Bandcamp, you still got to put in effort to make sure that the people that's going to listen to this at least know about you. And yes, Bandcamp is designed that if you get picked up by the right groups and by the right fans, it will start taking on a life of its own, much more than on iTunes. On iTunes, you will never ever be picked up unless you're a big artist, unless the charts in the background pick up, oh, you're one of the top sellers. Then they will monitor you, and if you fall away, they'll stop. But if you keep on being a top seller on iTunes, you'll end up on that little banner that says new music, whatever. But you got to stay there to stay there. Otherwise, you'll just fall away. But with Bandcamp, you become part of a network of people that like you, and you're sounding similar to this and that and that, and it's a self-perpetuating system. Initially, the effort will be yours to make sure people know about you, and you're going to have to be a little bit of a pest to make them know about you, but this is the way it works. Up to this point, it's all about selling music. Selling music takes something into account. Do you guys want to have a conversation about music rights, about master rights, copyrights, or are you kind of okay? Because I'm gonna assume that you know about the difference between copyrights and master rights.
It would be good because I don't know.
Would you like to know that? I want to make a point 5, and I'm going to talk about getting your music licensed. All right, this is also something that few people know about because they don't know about music rights. Let me quickly talk about music rights. There's more rights than what I'm going to point out, but I'm going to point out 3 categories. Music rights. All right, first music right that you get is called master rights, and it's not the right to master your music. This is something else. Master rights, copyright. Everybody has a right to master their music. Copyrights and mechanics. Okay, mechanical rights. Okay. Everybody heard about these rights: master rights, copyrights, mechanical rights. Okay, what is a master right and who owns a master right? A master right is the intrinsic right of somebody who paid for a recording. So, you pay me to make a single for you. You own that version that you commissioned me to do. Okay? I have no right to that final product. However, what nobody ever tells you, the steps towards getting there is owned by the creative. In photography, it's different. Photography, actually, you own all the steps as well. So it's really, like, people have noticed that, oh, there's a problem. Like, before this guy puts it in Photoshop and does things, it's his, but now after he's Photoshopped it, and the guy says, yes, thank you, here's your paycheck. Now we only own the Photoshopped version or the finalized version. Photography, that whole industry went back and said the master rights includes from the moment that you press the button. Music is not there yet. The good news is, like, the stems of a production is mine. I own everything because I'm the architect. I can't go to an architect and say, can you draw me a house? And then I take this plan to my friend who's also an architect and say, listen, why don't you just like look at the swimming pool? Maybe you can just do something nicer there. No, you can't do that. The steps towards owning that is owned by the architect. You have to honor that thing for what it is. It's a little bit the same in the music industry. The stems or the different steps to that is the owner of the producer, of the creative. But the person who pays for the product, once they approve of that and they walk away with the product, it is theirs. That's called the master rights. Record companies are all interested in the master rights. They want that copy that makes anybody famous, that makes U2. That copy that everybody knows of, where the streets have no name, right? That song, that version that made them famous, somebody wants to own that with their life. That's called the master rights. Okay, another version of that song takes us to another right, and it brings us to the copyright. The copyright is owned joint by the person who does the music, and by music I'm going to explain now, and the lyrics. Music, very interestingly, only the melody. Very important to know. The copyright is split between somebody who wrote the melody and the words. In production music where there's no vocals, it's only the melody. And therefore, production music in a court of law is very difficult to prove that you own it. It's also very difficult to prove that you've stolen an idea from somebody else's production music. Because in a court of law, they say you have to have 5 consecutive notes that's clearly recognizable in the same contour and the same rhythm. Then it's a copyright infringement on the melody. If you can't prove that, for example, if it's in a different timing, it's very difficult in a court of law. Lyrics, obviously, if you steal somebody's lyrics, especially in conjunction with their melody, you're infringing on the copyright. So, if I make an album, somebody pays me for the making of the album, they own the master rights. But the persons who wrote the songs own the copyrights. Unless there is some or other agreement in place that overrides the general copyright law, If I write a song for a person, and even though they pay me for it, it's still my rights. Unless they buy my copyright from me, and that is exorbitant fees. Somebody buys it. I'm signed to a publisher where I write music for like gold mines. I've written theme songs for some of the biggest fashion companies or fashion chain stores in South Africa. And then at the end, they want to use the music in stores and this and that and at boardroom meetings. And my publisher just goes say, you're allowed to play this once. And they say, no, but we want to play. No, say, you have to buy the copyright from us because we determine what you can do with it. It's our song. I mean, one project like that takes me 3 days, pay half of my year. So you definitely want to own the copyright of everything that you do. Yeah.
So basically what you're saying here is that if I make a top line or a melody and the lyrics and other maybe 2-3 guys come with a very big orchestra, guitars, basses, stuff like that, incredible harmonies, everything you need and will ever want, basically the copyright will be still mine.
Yes.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. The game is all about who owns the copyright. The big guitars, the drums, the arrangement. There's another, I'll tell you now, there's another thing with that. Mechanicals is specifically how your music... This, by the way, the copyright is important in broadcasting. You make your money when it plays on radio, plays in stores,
It's used in a commercial.
plays in a commercial. So you have, they're called broadcasting and sync rights sometimes as well. Sync rights is, this is important, like you have a song, you own the melody, you own the words, and now it lands in a big film. That you talk about, or on TV, in a TV commercial or whatever. That's a sync right, and you earn really good money if you own the copyright. The master right is a different ball game because this is all about selling the song. A record company would go like, okay, I've got this artist now, I own the master rights. First of all, I can sell it. Okay, obviously, I can sell it and distribute it, and all the money is mine. And out of that master right, I offer to pay the artist 10% for participating in my project. Okay. But which is also interesting, if I, because I'm the one with the dollars. But if I own the master right, I can also say, oh wait, now there's a compilation album coming out. And the compilation album is looking for, some famous pop tracks, and I own the master to a very famous pop track. So I go to this compilation company and say, hey, you want to shop this? And they go into agreement and say, oh yeah, we can put this on, and you're one of 10 tracks, so 10% of the next one, or a percentage after cost and after we have made up, we'll split it with you. Good. That's the one that the copyright, that the master right can negotiate. Mechanical is an interesting thing. This is the medium on which your print. So in a sense, copyright and mechanicals is one category, but the one has got to do with broadcast and syncing, and this has got to do with stuff like printing it on CD, printing it on vinyl, making it available on another medium than soft medium, air or television. So this is a very important right to be aware of when you are an artist and you're signed to a record label and they tell you, we're going to print 20,000 copies. Can I please see the mechanicals contract? So that I know of the 20,000 units that you print, how is this copyright thing going to look? How do you intend to pay? Now, here's an interesting thing. Remember I used the word PPD, published price to dealer. It's normally half of what it sells off on the shelf. So of this, let's say 15 lei, okay, 6.7% of that goes to the copyright. It's very little, actually. So not even just one lei, is it? One and a bit. Goes to the singer-songwriter. Yeah, that is, and usually the master copy is a very difficult thing. How much of that is the master? It's usually difficult because the master is just owned by the record company who pays for everything. So it's not, the master isn't a percentage of PPD. It is intrinsically the PPD. That's why record companies fear that an artist comes to them and say, don't worry, we'll pay for our own master. Don't you worry. Record companies fear that because the one who owns the master owns the control. Obviously, if you own the master, and you sell something, you still own the master, but then you got to pay the mechanicals. It's a really complex system. Therefore, to run a record company, you can understand that they take so much money because they need to pay something somebody who's an actuary just to work out who gets what. All right, so this is very important.
Isn't it safer to own the master and take a loan from the bank to buy mechanicals
Yeah.
than go into a label?
For sure. But usually people can't afford it. They go to the label because right at the end, the label tells you, look, your album is going to cost you $10,000 to make. We're willing to put on $90,000 to market this album. And you go, okay. Okay, because without the $90,000, my $10,000 is just one big risk. Nobody might hear of my record. You need the $90,000 to secure the $10,000 investment. And then they make back another $100,000 profit. And then the record is... You see, this is where they get you. That's why I say record companies are usually not one person. It's usually a bunch of businesses pulling together, putting a lot of resources and then sourcing the right artist, the right management, the right producers, the right everything, the right marketing company, the right publicist, everybody that pay them from this, but they know their investment is going to probably make back this list. Now it's just very difficult because like people can make music for free and the YouTube phenomena. People don't buy music anymore, so the model is skewed. Yes.
Why are they scared of you paying for your own music? Because
Okay, let me explain. That is a good question. Thank you. Record companies, although they very often don't own any of the branches, bigger labels own the printing companies. They own, especially like 20 years ago, they owned all the different... If you're a big machine and you make your money off selling records, why don't you just buy the people who print the records? Thank you. Boom. You're ours. Buy the small design company that does great designs. Buy the guys who designs the cartons for vinyl boxes. Yes, thank you. We buy you. Buy the company who prints or, who makes CDs. They just owned everything. But what record companies, when let's say there was a really good artist and the record company was, we actually want to sign you, but you don't want to be signed. That's a big problem because you paid for your own record. Then they offer you a print and distribution deal.
because they want you to be part of their...
They want you on the books.
yeah.
And they want to be able to put Warner Music at the bottom. First of all, that drives the perception that Warner is actually... Well, there's no way to prove that because somebody buys it in the shop, they turn around and say, oh, Warner Music, good. Another Warner Music album. It's not the truth. They have a print and distribution deal with you. And let's, for example, they say, for this, we take 15% to print it, and then we pay you 85% because you own the master. You can just as well walk to another label and say, hey, we offer you 17%. You know, so this, like a record company would not say, oh, we'll take 50%. Then you say, thank you, but no thank you, because I own the master. So you really want to own the master in this industry. As if you especially, if you're good, you want to own the master. If you're not that good and a label is willing to sign you, fine, take it. Or if you're not that experienced, just take the deal, even if they pay you 5%, because what they will do is they will build your brand. You know, but again, remember, like if you're really good, the game changes along those avenues. Then you get offered different perks, but you have to play the game by their rules. You basically have to sell your freedom and your. Even in South Africa, that's an indie industry. We have a famous guy called Joe Black in South Africa. He's actually a gentleman with an amazing story, and he's married. And he has kids, and he's got this deep voice, like it's incredible. He's like goggles when he sings. But the record company who signed him made him grow a beard like this, like up to here, and he was not allowed to shave his beard for 3 years. That's the level of control that goes on. He was not allowed to touch his.
He wasn't the guy who paid for his...
No. He was signed. He was brilliant. He was signed. But that's what I'm saying is they curated this image. Say we need Joe Black is the guy with the beard and the deep voice. Wherever he goes with his guitar, people have to see, oh, the beard is coming around the corner first. Joe Black has arrived. You know. So that's and that is not even a major. We don't have major labels in South Africa. We have branches of them. We have Sony and BMG, and Sony BMG in South Africa is a division of Sony India, and Sony India is a division eventually there's a headquarter in either somewhere in Britain or in America.
So what happens if you don't respect those rules?
No, you just get kicked off the contract, or worse, if you've signed a contract and you break the rules, some of those contracts keep you in debt for life. Then they have the right to sell your music and take all the money, and you're not allowed to record again. Otherwise, they persecute you. Like, for example, say your contract, say they own you for 5 years, and after 5 years, the record company will revise your contract, and you have the right to leave after that. But if you leave from a major label, you're nobody again.
So is there a chance to leave? You can live somehow to pay a bill or pay a fee?
You can, especially in the beginning, if you're prolific and you're promising, and they offer you a contract, they pay you advance. But the advance put you in debt with them. That's more control.
Now, for example, you have a 5 years contract with them, and after 2 years you want to leave. You can do that. Is there a possibility?
You can leave.
You can pay them to.
I think you can pay your debt back, but then they'll usually say they won't allow you to buy the master from them.
Okay, well that's it.
That's okay.
You still can leave. You can make your own.
Yeah, you can, for example, pay back
You're
your
free.
you can pay your advance and you can walk away.
Okay.
Yeah, and that will be the end of your game. And from there on, you'll be a small artist. Yeah, I know. One of my best friends, he was the. Now I must say what I'm about to say. You can Google him now. But he won the biggest music competition in South Africa, and overnight he was made. He went from a guy cycling to university classes overnight to driving a R500,000 sports car, being flown all over the world, got a big payment of hundreds of thousands of rands, like overnight. It was the biggest name overnight. After 3 years, he decided to leave this big company. It was Sony BMG who signed him, and now he can't pay his mortgage. He's the most famous guy. His wife is now the breadwinner. This is the difficulty. So you can now take what I'm saying. I also co-own a record company, but we don't sign artists anymore. We don't want this level of control. We want to contribute to the arts and contribute to people's passions and make sure that they get on radio, and they pay, like, we earn money off that. But we don't want this whole contractual. We own you for 5 years, 3 records, 5 years. This is what we'll do, and this is what you need to do. And you're not allowed to shave your beard, etc., etc. We're not into this. But there still is the chance. Here and there, you still find labels. Go for a print and distribution deal. If you, for example, this course is all about finding a way to produce yourself. That you don't have to go to a guy and pay him freaking, 10,000 lays per track, whatever. No, rather save up some money and buy equipment and learn to fish yourself and find a way. So at least we're empowering you. If there's one thing I want to say, we're empowering you to own your own master rights, and because this is where the power is. Yes, it doesn't solve the how do I market myself and how do I get myself famous. That's almost not a music industry question. It's almost a marketing question itself. How do you make anything known in the world? It's difficult. But anyway, is this helpful? So this brings me to point number 5. Any questions on this? I just want to make that. So the previous list was going down to streaming and Bandcamp. And then number 5, what I want to say is licensing your own music. Licensing. This means I can make a great piece of music that sounds like Hans Zimmer or whoever, and I so badly want to be in some other commercial in America or in Scandinavia or wherever, in Romania. I want to be on Romanian TV. But I made the music. It's my music. I want somebody to use this. That term is called licensing. I allow somebody to play my music in their show or use it as a theme song or use it as background music, and I get paid while I sleep. This is almost the best way of making money in the music, almost the best place to aim for, especially if you're a promising producer. You want to get your stuff on, and there's a lot. Thinking of companies like Artlist. Anybody heard about them? Songtrader. Think of these are the 2 big ones in the world. Artlist and Songtrader, both of them American-based companies. I'm signed to Songtrader. I'm also personally signed to a local publisher that used to be the head of Universal Music in South Africa. So he shops some of my stuff to small outlets in America, etc., etc. But Songtrader, for example, let's give you an example. I launched my singer-songwriter band 3 years ago, and put all my music on Songtrader, and got picked up by Songtrader, and I was played on 300 radio stations in America overnight. Now there isn't even 60 radio stations in South Africa in the whole country, and they got me in to have a song of mine playlisted. In the process, I was signed to BMI as a singer-songwriter in America. But check out Songtrader. That it's difficult now because, you know, as is with any and every new thing, in the beginning, it's only a select few that know about it, and you're somebody, and now, you know, the mushroom cloud. Now there's tens of thousands of composers on it, but get on there, because what Songtrader does is Songtrader is looking for music on behalf of ad agencies, on behalf of small TV companies, even small budget films. And Songtrader allows you to put every single one of your songs on there. You describe it with keywords, metadata to the core. And then on the one end, they search through the whole databases to find songs. And on the other end, they put ads up. They say, we are looking for, and they describe it. And then you have a credit system. You buy credits. I think you subscribe for $10 a month. You have 250 credits. And then they say, this film is looking for a track in this genre, this description. This, to enter costs 11 credits. And if this is your description and you put in your 11 credits, comes off your 250 for the month, you have a chance of one of the best people in the world listening to your stuff. So check it out. Songtrader.com, it's a DR, not an E there. Songtrade, Tradr. And Artlist is a little bit more difficult. Artlist is like Songtrader, but much more exclusive. I've tried to get into Artlist and I can't. So I was a bit discouraged. I tried a number of times, but they said just maybe in the next time keep on submitting music, but we're sorted. It's that sort of thing. But Songtrader allows you to open an account, upload all your songs that you produce. You should be on Songtrader. They're looking for electronic music all the time. And the good news about Songtrader is you can upload mixes of your songs, stems of your songs. And whenever, let's say you have a song and you know that if I take out 3 instruments, then it's another genre. It's like a dark, moody type of thing. And you see, oh, they're looking for dark, moody electronic music. That track of mine, if I just take out something, you just upload a version to Songtrader and you submit that. F***ing cool.
I thought about that, but that's like compromising my art in a way.
No, but it's...
When I'm working on an album, it's like a story, it's like a...
It's licensing. Remember, no one owns your music. They license it. They use it for the background in a track. Nobody knows it's you. And the world is bigger than you think. This is only true if you're Coldplay, what you're saying now. You know, this is only true if you're world famous. But chances are that somewhere in the world, 1 million or 100,000 people sound the same. The world is very big. I'm just saying, if you can license your songs, you still retain 100% of the copyright and the master right. They take a fee for working with it, and you get the fee that the TV company or whatever pays out. This is a great way of having a passive income. I'm signed. I think I've got something like, let's say, 45 of my songs are licensed all over the world in things, 50 or whatever. But these things make dollars while I sleep. You know, and nobody knows it's me.
So you're on another alias on that website?
No, but they don't trade it to the film company and say, hey, you now got to put up his name on the screen. You're just part of the background. But they were looking for the song, and some of these things they pay you up front, $2,000. Hey, $2,000, bro. That's like, it's in any case just lying there, you know, and it's non-exclusive. In other words, this TV company, ABC, uses that, and then along comes another company. They're also looking for. You submit it to them. They also license it.
Unless you sell them the copyright.
You can actually sell them the copyright, and they have like check it out. I'd be willing to show you now, but then I need to log into my account. This is all a little bit personal, but check out Songtrader.com. Really, really cool.
That they release their music normally through labels and iTunes and everything, and they still get licensed.
Yeah.
For a
No.
label, obviously, but
Yes, for sure.
but they have their album out there for everyone to listen to, and at the same time they get even more attention because their music is in a movie, and vice versa.
But this is exactly this.
Movies discover people who watch the movie discover
The
their
music.
album. I think this is like a better option
Yeah.
if you get lucky.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, this is super important. I'm going to make my last point, and then I'm done with all my talking. So, first of all, is selling your music. In other words, somebody buy a copy of it or stream a version of it. That's category one. Second category is licensing. Third category. What was the third category now? I'm completely having a blank now.
Streaming.
No, streaming and selling is one. Licensing, and what's the third category? Oh man, I have a complete blank now. It's gonna come back to me. I know how this works. Let's talk about other things. It's gonna sort itself out. Okay. Any questions about what we've talked to now? Because this is about finding an avenue. Oh yeah, this is what I'm. Sorry. Thank you. See how well it works. Just thinking about something else. Here's the big thing. So, category one is selling or streaming your music. What is the truth about that? There's not a lot of opportunities if you're not famous, and especially when it comes to streaming, you will be paid the lowest fee because you're not yet known. Okay? The second category is licensing your music. This is by far better. Okay, so this is by far better than selling and streaming. But listen, if you sell a song and somebody pays $1 for your song, they have your song and they have it for lifetime. And it's now you took $1 and you spend it on food, and the $1 is gone in 1 minute, and somebody has your song for life for $1. Bad idea. Licensing means you can be used in a big film, you get paid for it, and the song stays yours, and you can sell it to the same company 10 times over, because there's also the contracts protecting you. But there's something that's bigger than this, and this is what most people ask: where is the world in music? And this is, I'm just going to call it experience. And this will be my last bit, and then I'm going to save you from listening to all these woof woof. Experience is the theme where we're now at in the world. The big question was, if people are not willing to pay for your music because of the YouTube phenomenon, I'm using the word YouTube because we all can relate to looking at a video, listening to a song, and paying nothing for it. Okay, a big problem. It's like the YouTube phenomena killed selling and streaming. Licensing, I highly recommend, although you got to know one thing about licensing: you've got to be good. You're competing against very good people in the world. Some of the stuff that I listen to on the streams, I cannot believe it's human beings my age. They're really good. So, but see it as a challenge. You may be making that perfect punk rock little thing, and they're looking for that for an ad in America, and boom, you land it, and you get paid thousands of dollars. And you could have you could have taken you 3 hours to make. So definitely sign up to Songtrader, Artlist, or any of these places. But the big thing is, where does the money lie? And this is probably where most of you as musicians ask the question. Live performance. People are still available or still willing to pay for a great experience. For example, in South Africa, people won't pay 80 rands for a CD, but they'll pay 150 rands to go watch an IMAX movie for an hour. And walking out there, and after an hour, the money is spent, the 150 rands, but they could have bought a record for half of that price, and it was their property. Now they'd rather pay the 150 rands for 1 hour of experience. Who knows who Aha is, the band? Okay, so Aha's coming to South Africa in February. The worst tickets open up at 600 rands a ticket. Okay, we're all going there, me and all my friends, because we all want to see Aha. I do own all their music, but I want to see Aha live. I'll pay 600 rands anytime. I'll not eat for 3 days to see Aha, because seeing them live, this experience is worth more than the music that I have on my laptop, that I own, that I've bought. And it looks like the big question is, how does this look in the future? How does experience look? The guys who can crack the code, for giving people authentic musical experience again. I put up live there, but just because the layman's term is to perform live, but people are also kind of fed up to look at live bands. This is not the thing. You gotta become known for that band, that artist that does something different. I mean, we've talked about Mute Math here a lot now in the last couple of days. What did they get? What did they manage to do? They were great musicians, but there's many great musicians in the world. But they managed. The friend who introduced me to Mute Math went to see their concert. They opened for a much more famous artist, and after they opened for the concert, the people got up and walked out. They said, "We cannot handle something. This was so good. We don't actually want to see the main act." He told me the story. Mute Math came onto stage, suit and tie. The drummer came up. Now he's mad. You should see him actually. He came. He went to sit behind his drum kit, put up his headphones, strapped with masking tape, his whole pair of headphones around, like only his eyes stuck out. He's playing so wild that everything, and jackets and shirts, everything was out later on. They were just so good, but they put up a live experience that people actually got up and walked out. They said, there's no use for us to wait for the live act. The live act is going to be boring against them. Thank you, new famous act. This is how they got famous. They gave the people something that everybody in the world talked about. And I mean, what did you say? You didn't talk about a record of them. You talked about a live concert. You talked about the Amsterdam's live concert. This is what stands out of it. So I'm just using this as an example. The question is, how does the offering that you can give to the world, how does it look? And this is where we should think tank, brainstorm, and put together whatever that is. I'm not saying go ballistic and be stupid. Still put out great art, but what is the experience that comes with it? How can you be different to everybody? Sure, if you're a made artist, the experience is enough for people to see you live. I get that. I went to see Coldplay live, and I have to say the sound sucked. It was one of the worst sound rigs in my life. But seeing them perform live and putting up a concert and seeing how well oiled and how well structured they were and how they owned the concert was beyond any of the terrible sound. Even if I had just watched them without no sound, it would have been cool. And how he jumped up and down and with his feet in the air and on the piano, and like it was just, I was huh?
Cool play.
Yeah, cool play. So this is kind of where we are at. You can stream your music, you can license your music, or you can put up an experience, or you can do all three of them. Just know that the first one is a dying model. The second one is not a dying model, but you're competing against a fast-growing number of people who sit with the same problem as number one. And then the third problem is, I put a question mark there because no one knows exactly how the future of experience looks. But it looks like the revenue model has shifted. The people will pay for real art, to see it in real life, in whatever form or shape that is. And then I've told you about Songtrader, I've told you about Artlist, I've told you about Bandcamp.com, which is great platforms. Even if you just check it out, subscribe to that. Make yourself a Songtrader account. It's for free. You can take a pro account that costs, I think, $10 a month or something. Check it out. It's worth a while.
And what's the difference between Bandcamp and that one?
Songtrader?
Songtrader.
No, Songtrader is a licensing platform. Bandcamp is a selling platform.
Okay.
A selling/streaming, but there you don't have a middleman, and there you don't have big corporate structures controlling you. You curate your own store. In other words, you're the store owner in
So
Bandcamp.
you need to license your own music in order to them, or?
No. On Bandcamp, you sell your music.
Okay.
But
You sell it.
you sell it, the people can still buy your track, but you say how much you want for it. You can make it available for free.
Oh, you sell it, the master rights, the copyrights,
No, you never sell the rights. You sell. This is an important question. I realize I got to be more clear. When you buy a Coldplay track, you don't own the master. You own the right for that copy to be in personal possession of you. Still their song. You're not allowed to play that in public even. You know that. Pick up a disc and see what's written there. You're not allowed to play that at a party. You're not allowed to play that in a club. You're not allowed to even play that in your house when there's strangers listening to it. Nobody listens to the rules, but the right that you're buying is only for personal consumption. You pay $1 to listen to the music in your car, on your headphones. No, very few people know that. Coldplay still owns the master, and the guys, Chris Martin, who wrote the songs, or whoever else wrote it, they own the copyright. They just sell you for $1 the right to be in possession of this song and listen to it.
And license the song trader, you need to sign something like a virtual contract with them. Like
Yeah, it's super clear, and the good news is you can first open an account and upload your music and tag it and put artwork with it, so that it can, then you can organize it in playlists. Like you make a playlist for experimental electronica, playlist for TV and film, pop music, like everything that you've done. And then those playlists comes onto you have a public profile on there, so people can search you on Google and find, oh, there's Brandon on Songtrader. But let's say I'm a film company. I also like a rev and hang out on Songtrader because I want to see if there's something I want to use in my next film. Now I see, oh, Brandon, I've picked him up. He's got a good thing. Now Songtrader speaks to me and Songtrader speaks to you. He's the middleman. He makes sure that your music is made available for that company and you get paid the full fee. And Songtrader tells the company, you got to tell me how big is your film, what's your budget, who's going to be the audience, it's going to be on major release cinema, and there's all brackets what that song cost. It's brilliantly curated. It's brilliant. Like you don't have to think that, and then they give you the option to say you may be world famous and you're on Songtrader and you're above Songtrader. You can say I want $1 million for it. Then you can have it, or they can use it in your film. Non-exclusive. Thank you. I keep all my rights. Or gives you an option. Let's say I'm the film man and you made a song and say, I got to own the song. I want all the rights to this. And you say, fine, you can pay me $5 million. And I say, I've got $5 million, I want your song. And we negotiate through Songtrader. Songtrader take a small fee. You get your $5 million and you lose your rights. And you go on holiday and you write something new. You know. Like, licensing is still, if you can make it in licensing, it's beautiful.
What would you recommend, for example? I mean, this is our international
Yes.
stuff, but if I'm gonna do a national project, like I have songs.
Okay, so this is a good question. What do you do? You're local, nobody knows you here. What do you tackle all of those avenues? You make sure that you're available for now digitally. Don't put your hope to be picked up on iTunes. But it's cool if you walk in the streets and somebody, hey, you're on iTunes. I say, yes, this is my name. And they go listen to it and they buy your track, you earn $1. But you're there. You're available, and the perception is that you're there. You also make a Bandcamp site. So you say to people, I'm on iTunes, but check me out on Bandcamp. There's a little bit more resources, and so you can listen to the song. You can listen to it for free and check if you like it. And there's lyrics on it. There's all this. I've got an exclusive video for and people go, oh, this sounds cool. I'm going to check out Bandcamp. And they go and you give them your Bandcamp name. They go search it out, and when they like it, buy. And they buy it with a credit card, where on iTunes you have to have an iTunes account. And again, iTunes want all your banking details in your iTunes account. Nobody likes that. But somebody can go on, type something into Bandcamp and pay with their credit card. So be on all the major sites. Be on Bandcamp. Be on Songtrader. And check in every day on Songtrader if the amount of requests that come in isn't something that you're busy with. And you submit your track. And there may not come something of it in the next year, but you keep on just submitting it.
And
keep on.
Distributing those stuff. So who's distributing between those two? The Songtrader or the Bandcamp?
Bandcamp is a store that you curate. So you're an artist on Bandcamp and you run your own back end office. Whereas on iTunes you can only get on iTunes through TuneCore, through a distribution company.
You won't get to iTunes.
No, they're two different avenues.
Okay.
If you want to be on iTunes, you still got to play the game through TuneCore. I say do both. Be on iTunes because it's cool to be on there.
Mm-hmm.
At least we think it's cool. I don't know if anybody cares, but
And the other is the Bandcamp distributes you on somewhere else, like Amazon or Google Play or stuff like that?
no.
Doesn't it? Okay. Yeah.
Bandcamp is a store.
Okay.
Bandcamp is one store, but you don't need to distribute it. You can put yourself on Bandcamp.
Okay.
That's the big difference. Where you can not get on Google Play, on any of those places without going through the middleman, which is TuneCore or CD Baby, and there's, like I said, I don't even know what the others are. Okay, then climb onto Songtrader, even if you have one song, because Songtrader is a platform that brings the buyer and the seller together. Songtrader tells you as a seller, ooh, there's 5 companies that are looking for songs, and it tells you what they're looking for. And and then you've got all your songs in Songtrader, and you say, I match that with that. I enter that into the need. And they say, thank you for your subscription, you'll be contacted. And then Songtrader lets you know, your song has been reviewed. Unfortunately, it's not been selected. Thank you for participating. We look forward to your next your next participation. And most of the time it's that, and then sometimes you put something in and they say, congratulations, you've been shortlisted. Then the music gets sent to this film company and they look at the 5 top, and maybe you make it or you don't. And if you make it, Songtrader contacts you and say, thank you, here's the contract between the two of you, we'll negotiate the payment. And on Songtrader you receive all your money into your Songtrader account and you can pay it into PayPal or extract it to your bank account. Great, super easy. And then I'm saying, but while you have that, don't stop designing the best live experience for your audience. And obviously, you need all of this, and the big thing around this is, and you got to think tank how you make yourself known. I very often think that if you can create the best live experience for somebody, you'll be like a Billy Joel. Billy Joel played piano in a bar for years. He's now probably one of the biggest singer-songwriters on piano in the world. He played in a bar for years, but he made sure that every time that he was on the piano, he was the best he could be. And it took him a long time, but he broke through. Somebody who heard him once then say, what a prodigy, listen to this man. Listen to him sing and play together. And he made his debut with the Piano Man. Does this help?
Yeah.
Gives a little bit of a picture, right? At least because probably nothing of this is 100% new, but it kind of pulls it together into, okay, this is how the world, I can sell or stream, I can license, and I can create a big experience. Is there other avenues? Maybe. But I think under these 3 headings, black market, you can sell your body, you can go to the dark web, there's all sorts of things, but this session needs to be like, this is where it goes wrong. Okay, so we take a quick break and then we're going to do a Q&A. Thank you.